Das kann ich nicht knacken. Ramm! Oh, mach doch mal hin! Das macht auch nicht so viel Schaden. Nun mach doch mal! Oh Mensch, dieses nachgeladen nervt. Gut. Wollte gerade sagen. Oh, und wie langsam. Jetzt habe ich einen Schlüssel. Der musste 3-mal raufkloppen. Man hat das ja gehört. Oh, ist das dumm. Animationen des Todes sind das hier. Ja, und dein Roboter sollte mich jetzt töten, oder was? Was sagt ihr dazu, hä? Huch. Hier war bloß der Pod, also hier wurden sie aufgeladen oder irgendwie sowas. Diesen hast du alle beseitigt? Oh, Pavati? Ich bin angenehm überrascht. Ich guck nochmal. Hier ist aber nichts weiter, ne? Dann wollen wir mal nach oben. Das ist aber nicht die richtige Waffe. Ja, lass dir Zeit. Wozu beeilen? Geht ja bloß ums Leben. Oh, hier wird's hübsch. Guckt euch das mal an. Oh. Was für ein Luxus. Also echt. Mit Spiegelung. Cool.
Why won't you
Sonja? Wie geht's dir? Sophia, wie geht's dir? Sag mal was. Sophia?
get me out of here?
Ach so.
You don't know how glad I am to see you. You did the right thing. Akande was a monster. Her death was much deserved, and long overdue. And you lunatic, you broke into the board's own fortress just to rescue one doddering
Ich
old
bin doch
man.
selber ein alter
You are
Tattergreis.
absolutely out of your mind, and I can't begin to thank you enough. I'm all right, thanks to you. Akande wanted my cooperation. I'm quite sure she would have beaten it out of me if you hadn't arrived. You've broken the board's stranglehold on this colony, and you saved my life. But there's still so much we have yet to accomplish. You and I are going to have to work harder than ever to save Halcyon. I'm afraid the situation is far worse than any of us ever anticipated. Earth has gone dark. We haven't received a single message in 3 years. There's been no communication, no signals, nothing. 2 years ago, the Earth's Directorate's frigate disappeared on their way back to Earth. We don't know what they discovered when they
Das
arrived.
wäre ideal für den zweiten Teil, ja?
So we've got to make do on our own. Seems to me that'll
Wir
make
müssen
us
doch
stronger in the
herausfinden,
end
was mit der Erde passiert ist.
You're quite right. We've got no choice but to make do on our own.
You mean we're all alone out here?
Ja, du bist doch nicht
Really
allein.
I'm afraid so, Miss Holcomb. Halcyon is the only home we have left. Returning to Earth is no longer an option. We're in serious trouble, my friend. Do you know what this means for Halcyon? We can't rely on Earth for support anymore. We've been cut loose. we're entirely on our own. Yes, we do. You've done a marvelous thing. You've succeeded where anyone else would have failed, including me. We must begin the revival process immediately, starting with the Hope's brightest minds, and then we're going to fix this damn colony, one problem at a time. We're going to need a leader, and I can't imagine a better person for the job than you. What do you say, old friend? Will you help us?
Zwar, was ich will, wann ich es will. Ich muss an Eiscreme denken.
When I revived you, I thought you were going to help me save this colony. I was wrong. I had our roles reversed, you see. You're the one who's going to save us all. I'm just the one who set you on your path.
Aha.
You're the best thing to ever happen to Halcyon. If you want to take it upon yourself to lead this colony, you have my support. We're not a colony any longer, are we? Our last connection to Earth has been severed, and so we have been set free. Our future is uncertain, and no one knows what tomorrow holds. Exciting, isn't it?
Yeah.
The OSI teaches that everything in the universe happens according to the grand plan. But the stranger that arrived in Halcyon was an unplanned variable. From the moment he landed in Emerald Vale, his actions altered the course of history. The events on Tartarus brought about the end of the board's authority. But the board's mistakes would haunt the colony for decades to come. The damage they left behind would require the work of a generation to repair. Dr. Phineas Wells began reviving a handful of the Hope's colonists. Engineers, scientists, technicians, and intellectuals. They were among the brightest minds the Earth had ever sent out into the stars. The Hope scientists and engineers woke up in a colony descending headlong into total collapse. With no way to return to Earth, they had no choice but to band together and devote themselves to the cause of saving Halcyon. The people of Halcyon were nothing if not hardy. In the absence of the board's authority, many of the colony's settlements banded together with a single purpose in mind: survival. Life was especially hard in the years to come. Some towns dissolved by attrition and starvation, but most of them found a way to carry on. In the years to come, Halcyon was forced to reckon with its newfound freedom. The board was gone, and for better or worse, the colony was responsible for its own destiny. Between MSI's worker-centric policies and the iconoclast's manpower, Sanjar and Zora were able to rally many of the Terra 2 townships to their cause. MSI's workforce swelled, and the iconoclasts enjoyed a significant surge in their ranks. The board was too distracted by infighting and internal politics to stop MSI from becoming a powerful corporation and a refuge for townships that might have fallen through the cracks. Consumed by paranoia, Lilia Hagen took Sublight Salvage in a controversial direction, openly accusing board officials of an extraterrestrial conspiracy. One day, an accident at the Groundbreaker's docking bay silenced her forever. Time would tell if her replacement could keep the Sublight family together. Adelaide McDevitt replaced Reed Thompson as the leader of Edgewater. She and her followers transformed Edgewater in their image. Anyone loyal to Reed was pressured into leaving town, and those who stayed behind adapted to her way of life. Adelaide transformed the old cannery into a new garden. The nearby Edgewater Cemetery provided a convenient source of fertilizer. As for Reed Thompson, it was said that he lasted exactly 2 days outside the walls of Edgewater. Years later, a marauder was found in possession of his hat. Under the leadership of Junlei Tennyson, the Groundbreaker held firm against corporate influence. The ship's mechanical stability gave Junlei the time to educate a promising generation of engineers schooled in her family's traditions. the future of the Groundbreaker looks promising. The rediscovery of the Hope and the abandonment of the lifetime employment program forced Byzantium to come to terms with some uncomfortable realities about the state of Halcyon. While Byzantines were reluctant to surrender the luxuries they'd grown accustomed to, the board's diminished authority gave them little choice in the matter. Nearly everyone had to learn to make do with less. Some even had to get jobs. It was a dark time indeed. Your influence shifted Ellie's perspective. She finally admitted, albeit grudgingly, that she just might need other people. Sometimes. With a steady income from the life insurance payouts, she was finally able to afford a ship of her own. She hired a small crew and flew supply missions to communities on the fringe. Some of them were even legal. Life in Halcyon was sobering for Felix Millstone. The grand revolution he dreamed of never came. There was no great awakening for the colony, no celebrations in the streets. There was only the hard, desperate work of trying to repair a broken colony. Felix never had a head for numbers, but if there was labor to be done, he was there to help. Eventually, Felix realized that the work of a revolution was done with two hands. As much as he enjoyed his adventures aboard the Unreliable, the vicar, known as Max, eventually decided that it was time to move on, to live out the life he had sought so long to create. He knew there were many in the colony who carried burdens much worse than the ones he had struggled with, and he devoted himself to easing their suffering wherever he could. He only ever took up arms again to defend the defenseless. Unshackled from a lifetime of striving and fighting the universe and himself, Vicar Maximilian de Soto was finally at peace. Once the matter with the Hope colonists was resolved, Junlei bashfully asked Parvati if she'd like to join her permanently on the Groundbreaker, and Parvati enthusiastically, if somewhat awkwardly, agreed. The stories of her adventures spread across the colony, and Parvati soon found herself the center of attention. Having served as the engineer of a renowned spacecraft, tramp freighters and wildcat miners sought her out by name, and in no time, she was a fixture in the Groundbreaker's mechanical ecosystem. She and Junlei were never far apart. Nyoka returned to Monarch to take another crack at making a permanent life for herself. She formed the Charon Group, a mercenary outfit of ragtag survivalists and wilderness experts. Anyone in need of a guide, or just looking to throw back a beer and swap stories, could find her camping on the trail or clearing an infestation. The SAM unit that accompanied you spread awareness of the product line's superior sanitation and maintenance capabilities across what was left of the colony. This led to a boost in SAM unit sales. Did you know that SAM units are the longest-lasting, toughest-acting cleaning solution in Halcyon? Minister Clark was released from house arrest, and his contact with you gave him a sense of renewed purpose and vigor. Once it became clear that no help would be coming from Earth, he threw his considerable efforts and talents into helping Halcyon manage the crisis before it. As for Dr. Phineas Wells, he spent his remaining years in his orbital lab. He eventually came to terms with his own past, and was able to forgive the mistakes of his younger self by devoting his remaining years to serving the colony. Dr. Wells was able to revive many more scientists and engineers than he first expected, thanks to the additional batch of chemicals you stole from the Ministry. Wells never forgot about the human lives that were lost in acquiring these chemicals. In the end, Dr. Wells was able to save every scientist and engineer aboard the Hope. Over the next decade, nearly all of the Hope's remaining colonists were successfully revived. Halcyon saw a period of rapid technological and scientific advancement.
Na Gott sei Dank.
Breakthroughs in dietary supplements saved the colony from starvation. Geoengineering projects and social reforms began to change the structure and character of the colony. Dr. Wells laid the groundwork for the project to save the colony, but he would never live to see the fruits of his labor. He passed away a few years later. His work was carried on by the scientists and engineers he revived. Today, Halcyon has stabilized. The people of the colony work hard to adapt to their new circumstances. Nearby colonies send aid and supplies. Life will never be easy in Halcyon, but for the first time in its history, there exists a sense of real, genuine hope about the future. And what about you, the unplanned variable in the history of Halcyon? Long after Wells passed away, you carried on his work with more energy, determination, and brilliance than he could ever muster. The years that followed were hard, but Halcyon survived by the efforts of the Hope's most promising colonists, the greatest of which was you. No one knows what's happened to Earth, and no one knows what the future has in store for Halcyon. All we know for certain is this: the name of the Unreliable and that of its intrepid captain will remain the subject of countless stories for years to come.
Vorbei. Alles vorbei. Kann man das schneller machen? Ja. Weitere Informationen. Die beiden habe ich. Wenn ich jetzt weitermache, mal gucken, was dann passiert. Sophia? Ach, jetzt sind wir wieder hier? Das ist ja blöd. Ist das tatsächlich so? Hätte ich die vorher machen müssen, aber die sind ja danach gekommen. Also alles, was wir jetzt gespielt haben, wäre dann weg. Ich kann das aber auch nicht mehr verkaufen. Das nützt mir auch nichts. Spielstand laden. Spaziergang, ja, das ist klar. 11 Minuten, 14 Minuten. Dann kommen wir, das kann ja nur, wir müssen wieder auf der, ja, das ist Sophia, Spielstand laden. Das ist der, den ich gemacht habe. ...14 Minuten? Das ist doch... Das hat doch länger gedauert. Hä? Na nu, geh doch mal. Wir sind hier... Ah! Ja, ich hätte das vorher machen müssen. Ja, macht ja irgendwo macht das auch Sinn, weil... ich bin ja trotzdem voll. Meine schöne Waffe habe ich trotzdem, bloß noch nicht verbessert. Das ist aber nicht so schlimm. Tagebuch. Ja, wir sind auch nicht 32. Ein Paket für Alex Horton. Der Horton es wohl nicht annehmen wird, gehört es recht. Öffne das Paket. Keine Nacht ohne Sterne. Die Gorgon den Rücken kehren. Wir haben doch hier... Wie starte ich denn das jetzt? Das sind meiner Meinung nach die beiden... Murder on Eridanos. Ich würde das hier, das ist das Paket hier. Das ist das hier. Das werden wir mal öffnen. Mal gucken.
Hawthorne, if you're getting this, something's happened to me. Got mixed up in some shady business on Gorgon. Should have known better. But I landed on something big. And now this job's an itch I can't stop scratching. There's a whole research compound left of the Sprats. I think I'm close to figuring out why. But something dangerous is closer to me. Got the job through one Minnie Ambrose. Top runger who just came into some money was offering a hefty bit card for qualified help. Trust me, her money's good. Talk to Minnie. Take the job. If I ain't gonna live to see the payday, might as well be you. Consider us even, old pal.
Öffne das
Well,
Paket, ja.
that fellow certainly seemed trustworthy.
I've gotten jobs from some unusual sources, but this is a first. Congratulations, Captain.
I don't mean to sound prim, Captain, but there's gotta be a better way to ask someone to do you a favor.
I just want to say, we gotta take this job. This is the closest I ever been to starring in a serial drama. Only thing we're missing is a couple of cameras and a soundtrack.
Aha.
At least this won't be boring.
Lucky Montoya owed Captain Hawthorne a considerable debt. I believe this is what humans refer to as payback. Captain, the message contains landing coordinates for a small asteroid in the Charybdis cluster. It was recently registered to a Wilhelmina Ambrose. He was an old friend of Alex Hawthorne's. Lucky Montoya had a statistically significant tendency to encounter situations of extreme danger.
Oh, really? I thought he lost his arm gambling.
He was also the 4th best paid freelancer in the system. This had less correlation with his measured aptitudes, which rank at or below average, than with a pattern of fortunate circumstances.
Scheiße.
I have transferred the coordinates for Ambrose Manor to your navigation terminal. We can travel there when you are ready.
Ja, da wollen wir hin. Ich kann ja auch noch laufen. Ich will mal gucken. Vielleicht habe ich noch was ich hier in meinem privaten Tresor einlagern will. Hier erstmal schauen. Hier habe ich aber so eine... Die behalte ich. Die war gut. Die hat sich echt gut gemacht. Hier ist hier noch irgendwas. Der, ne? Den wollte ich behalten. So. Weil der hat so ein Gekringel drumrum. Sonst behalte ich hier gar nichts. Das ist mein Schrott. Den kann ich verkaufen, wenn wir einen Automaten finden. So, meine Waffenkonstellation. Warte mal, jetzt gehen wir erstmal hier unten. Hier. Jetzt gucken wir uns hier erstmal um. Ich hatte das ja ein bisschen umgebaut, aber da brauche ich jetzt Geld. Und das habe ich nicht. Tüfteln. Ich könnte aber diese Waffe betüfteln. Denn das Geld haben wir auf jeden Fall. Einen machen wir noch, ne? So. Ja, mehr geht auch nicht. Dann gehen wir nochmal hier rein. So. Und für diese nehme ich diese, weil das macht sich richtig gut. Die Konstellation hatte ich vorhin auch. Und hier nehme ich diesen Helm. Den tüfteln wir nochmal. Ich glaube, da geht noch ein bisschen was. Wo ist mein... Tüfteln. Wo ist mein Helm? Da. Guck mal, da können wir noch. Ein bisschen Geld haben wir noch. Oh, der Wind. Der Wind, das himmlische Kind. So, das reicht. Und jetzt wollen wir dann mal zu der Wilhelmina fliegen.